It's so great. It's so out of the blue.
Well, it catches you. You're like, all right, where's this going?
I must be listening to some real experts here. Honey, lower the TV. I'm trying to listen. Welcome to this episode of the Cool Dad Shirt Podcast. So now I guess talking about the mashup, 5 episodes in, and there's enough on the cutting room floor to assemble a whole additional mashup episode.
It's amazing that we're there already. We are not phoning it in, folks. This is just some experimentation from original. We took a crack at doing some recording out of the gate just to see how this might go. And we picked some best snippets from the pilot episodes as we try to figure some stuff out. And we think we got some. We hope you find funny. We do, so...
Here we are, Rich.
It happens. We're going to wing it and see how it goes.
I went through my whole dad checklist. I restarted. I did 2 Control-Alt-Deletes, and then I unplugged, counted to 30, and then plugged the modem in. And again, proven time and time correct. Here we are, up and running.
Yeah, we can't let the women in our lives know that being a cool dad really is just powering things off and turning it back on.
Just a matter of checking the plugs.
That's right. But here we are. So we're coming off a weekend, and you had an event that you tell me. I can't wait to hear the story.
So anyway, we go to the wedding, right? It looks like we're packed for 3 weeks. We're staying at the hotel. We're going to get ready before the event. So we got our fancy clothes that we got to change into. We got the clothes that we got on. We have the clothes that we're going to wear tomorrow. We have the dog. We have the dog food. We have the dog carrier and crate. And we're schlepping this all up in the hotel. So the next day, we're leaving. We got it all packed up. I load up the car. It's pouring rain. The wind's gusting at about 50 miles an hour. I go to pull out of the parking lot and flip on the wipers. No windshield wipers. So
what happened next?
So I'm a dad, right? What do? You just drive fast so the water blows off the windshield. So we have an hour and a half ride home, and you would think, the kids would be like, "Oh man, Dad, we'll be real quiet, so you can focus. The wind's blowing, it's rain." No, phones blaring, everybody's chatting, everybody's uncomfortable, everybody was hungry. We had to hit the drive-through, so it was business as usual, just no wipers.
They just, well, I mean, again, it's a compliment to you that all their collective lives were in your hand. They knew you so had this down that they were just going to go about their day.
Exactly. I should feel good that they have such high confidence in me that even not having windshield wipers in hurricane-like conditions, Dad has got this. So
he's gonna get us home safely too if we get back on Wi-Fi where everything will be great. Do you guys do a live tree, artificial tree? Do you axe down your own?
Yeah, we used to do the live tree, and then we got one year. It was loaded with about, thousands and thousands of acorns or nuts or something, like a squirrel was nesting in there. And when we opened it up in the house, all those nuts started falling out. We were terrified a squirrel was going to jump out. So I had to quickly drag it out of the house, and we put it on the porch and bought a artificial tree, and that was the last live tree we've ever had.
Oh, so you didn't wait till the tree naturally de-squirreled itself. You just zipped down to the local hardware store and came back with an artificial tree. That's funny. Yeah, this past week, years ago, the girls and I would go and cut down a tree. That was kind of an event with everybody moving out in college and all these other moving parts. In recent years, we've just zipped over to a local nursery and picked one up. Kelsey came home last weekend and said she wanted to decorate the tree. Of course, here in upstate New York at this time of year, it's dark at 4:30. So by the time we got over there, it was like 4:45. We quickly find a tree, and there's no one to be found. I'm standing out there holding the tree, walking up and down aisles. We can't find anybody. So I walk up to the building, and I stand outside the door, and I see 2 employees standing on the other side of the glass, chit-chatting with each other. And, they see me, and I'm standing there for like 10 or 15 seconds waiting. I'm starting to, like, what's going on? So I walk in, and I open the door, and I carry an 8-foot tree in the store with me. Of course, my daughter's like, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Oh, somebody outside can help you." And I said, "Well, we were looking around. We couldn't find anybody. And I just, sort of waiting here. I thought maybe one of you guys, oh, no, we're going to get somebody. We'll go outside and get, there's people out there." So my daughter turns to me and says, Yeah, I'm giving you a low rating on your people skills today. I, s- I said I wasn't a jerk. She goes, like a lunatic, you walked in the door with a tree. She said, that's really obnoxious. I said, but I wasn't rude. And so she rolled her eyes or whatever. And sure enough, the guy comes back. He's like, I can't find anybody else. I'll just take care of you here. So we made a little joke. We paid for it. And I made her admit that you know, all was well. Nobody was, nobody, it all worked out just fine, but it just made me laugh that she was rating me on my people skills. I don't know if you've ever gotten that.
So I wanted to ask you about something, and it's not a new trend. Some people refer to them as ice baths or cold plunges. Have you seen that? Have you read about that?
I've heard of that. It's supposed to be healthy or something, isn't it?
Very healthy mentally and physically, yes, for your
Yeah.
body, builds up your immune system, centers your chi, I guess, or it's they say it's good for your mind,
How
good for
do
you
you know what,
mentally.
how do you know when your
I don't know.
cheese
I
off
don't know where
center?
my chi is. I have no idea where my chi is. If it's left or to the right, I have no idea. But from what I've read, the little that I know is mentally and physically, it has a lot of benefits.
So have you tried it yet?
I haven't. What I try to do, and this is funny. I play games with myself, right? I the closest I've gotten is dialing the faucet back in the shower, and I try to count to see how long. And during the summer, I can do it for a long time, and I almost condition my body to adjust to that cold water. So when I go to the beach and get in the ocean water, I don't look like such a wimp. I seem like a tough guy, just walking straight out into the water. Because I'm like an 87, 88 degree kind of a guy, but I like the ocean. So I start dialing that water back, as cold as I can make it for 30, 40 seconds. And then when I go to the ocean, I can kind of head right into the waves like a pro.
And keep your coolness. Yeah. So you train for that as well.
So yeah, so I do a lot of training in my life.
Hey, you're pulling it
Yeah.
off, man. You're executing. Yeah. Winter ice in the winter. Man, yeah, like you. If I were to entertain that feels like a June or July kind of thing.
So what else you got going on? A little video editing, a little music, a little
So
guitaring.
yeah, the again going back, which is something I've gotten better in life, is knowing when to say no. And I got talked into doing some video editing. It's a skill set. My photography is pretty okay, and some people think, oh, it's a camera, like just do video. So the drummer in my band is a drummer. Another band is like, oh, just come video. We'll just, it's going to be simple and easy. Don't worry about it. And in way over my head. I have some basic knowledge, but it turned into it turned into a lot of stress. I had a very rough week making things connect, work, sync. I upgraded my software to the pro level, so there's a learning curve on top of everything else going on. I think I got through it, learned a bunch of things. I had to make sure we were all using the same files as things were coming together, and then it started falling into place. So I've got a pretty okay result from the first music video, and I'm pretty happy. It's an upcoming band called Lucid Street. I'm going to give them a plug. They're great, and
Nice.
maybe someday you'll hear from them as they continue to write original songs. But it's been fun, and we'll see how. Oh, and then actually, geez, talk about overbooking your time. This weekend, I got hired to photograph a charity event at Cohoes Music Hall, and they had some local people doing some singing. There was a lot of singing, and they had some performances. There was a little ballet performance, and I totally forgot that local guitar legend Mike Campese was there. And this guy's the real deal. He's from the area here in upstate New York, and he's toured with major acts. I think in 2004 he was one of the guitar players. The Trans-Siberian Orchestra, I think they pick up local musicians. You have to audition for it, but I think as they travel city to city, they actually pick up some local people. And he performed in the TSO years ago, and he came out and man, he ripped some serious guitar Christmas music, and it was amazing. And he's got the whole look. So again, when the lights are good, the guy plays the part and pulls it off. If I do say so myself, I got some sick photos of Mike through that whole thing. So that was a
Nice.
that was a good time. It was a very photo exciting weekend for me.
Was his guitar playing so fast you needed to capture it at 60 FPS?
I had to, well,
See what I did? He's no 30 FPS kind of a guy. He's a
he's
60 FPS.
when you get into serious shredding, yeah, you're bumping that frame rate up at least
Yeah,
to 60. Yeah, no doubt about it.
exactly. Like a Bob Dylan, someone like that is maybe a 30 FPS, but a shredder
But
like that,
he's so vintage. You can take that right down to the cinematic 24.
you could do 20. What is it? 24 point something, right?
I think it's something like that.
There's a point in there, but 24
For
FPS.
Dylan, we actually go decimal places to get to dial that in just right because
Yes.
he's a national
Nice.
treasure.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing your video editing project here. Would it be on the same caliber as like a Cameron Crowe, or would you consider this like a Judd Apatow type production?
Those are both out of my league because people have actually heard of them.
Yes.
This might be more. What would be a good? I'm looking for a joke here, Mike. I don't. It's so pathetic. No, let me get back to you in a few weeks when I refine my skills a little
All
bit
right.
and hopefully. Or I'll be the example, like when they make it big, like this is what we used to look like.
No, I don't think so. I mean, especially with that upgrade to pro software. I mean,
There was a lot of flying by the seat of my pants, but I think the end result is pretty okay. It'll suit their needs on the path forward here. If you're anything like me, you can do almost anything. It just takes 10 times longer than a professional.
exactly. I'm out there. I got grease all over my hands. I'm sliding through YouTube videos.
Yes.
My knuckles are bleeding because it's cold and I'm banging them against everything. So, and then my wife opens up the door. I'm out there. I'm out there no more than 10 minutes, right? I got all the plastic off. My wife, God bless her, precious heart, opens the door and yells out, "How's it going out there? It looks like you're having trouble. It's taken a long time. Do you know what you're doing?" Zero confidence, Rich. So now this wiper repair is a game of spite. I will fix these things. I will fix them myself.
Yeah, game on. These things are going to be so awesome. They're going to wipe the windshield of the car next to me. That's how awesome this thing is going to be.
Zero confidence she had in me. Broke my heart, Rich. Zero confidence.
And you know what makes things better when you're super frustrated, angry, and you're having a hard time going is, when people talk about it. Nice, nice. All right, well, we're sliding into the holiday season. This all sounds good. Do we have a cool dad tip we want to share?
I was counting on you, Rich. I was counting
Okay,
on
well,
you for a
I
tip.
don't know how great a tip this is. I heard something very interesting this week at work, going through a few things, and we were trying to upgrade some stuff, and it's going to cause people to do things a little bit differently. And somebody says, everybody hates change. We can't do change. Everybody hates change. And then a coworker of mine said, if I gave you a 20% salary increase, how would you handle that change? So it's all the way you look at things, right? Sometimes change is good. It's
Yeah,
perspective.
would you say about the increase? I hope you said I'll take it.
I'm pretty sure that was hypothetical, making a
Oh,
point.
I was going to say that's the tip of the week. If someone offers you a 25% increase and asks how you will handle it, you just tell them just fine.
It's good. Don't you worry, buddy. I'm on it.
Rich, I'm counting on you for the tip of the week, and here I am salvaging it.
Well, that's how well we work together. And so there is your cool dad tip.
The Reed Miles from Blue Note, the Roger Deans who did Yes and Asia albums, Von Oliver who did a lot of the 4AD covers. There is Derek Riggs who's behind all the Iron Maiden covers. There's another design group called Hypnosis, which was Storm Thurgeson and Aubrey Powell. I believe they did a bunch of Pink Floyd covers, but there's so many great artists that are behind these albums. I certainly would want to recognize them in the conversation as well.
Well, I'm glad somebody did show prep because that's a huge thing. Yeah, we kind of connected to the music, but it's a different medium of artistry that kind of paired up, and I think most people don't know the people behind those. So, yeah, excellent.
Yeah, and many of them have done years worth of album covers, right? Like the Derek Riggs of Iron Maiden, right? He's done countless Iron Maiden covers. There was Reed Miles, who I mentioned, that I was thinking, and I always loved those Blue Note album covers. They were always this combination of a photograph and some really cool graphic design. One that stood out to me, I guess we're jumping right in it, was Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, Moanin', which was a picture of Art and then this sort of yellow tint over the image, which I always thought was just so cool. And then the one even more so than that is the John Coltrane Blue Train album from 1958. Again, it's this cool picture of Coltrane with these letters and this blue font. And while it appeared to be almost simplistic, it was very impactful, and it felt like it just told a great story.
Yeah, and I think that's like most art. I think it needs to be intentional, and yeah, even if it's simplistic in the way it appears, it was obviously contrived and set up, or not contrived in a pejorative sort of way, but it was designed a certain way to send a mood or a message or a feeling along with the music. So yeah, exactly, and that's why I started my list kind of along the same lines, and Iron Maiden makes it as a young person, very impressionable teen, and so my first category was like the hard rock impression stuff, where things that made my mom angry, like the Kiss Destroyer album. It was very cartoonish and awesome and terrifying to parents. And you look into like the Number of the Beast, very satanic, but I couldn't stop looking at Eddie controlling, with the puppet strings and just crazy stuff. And right in line with that is like Dio, Holy Diver. It's all kind of that same kind of evilness that goes along with that early metal stuff that was very impressionable to me.
So you've categorized yours. I'm impressed.
I couldn't wrap my brain around exactly how to explain it. I always hate the rankings because you just make everybody angry when you start doing that. So I think it's just, my journey through album covers is going to be how I portray this.
So let's talk about some of those. You mentioned Iron Maiden. I pulled 3 of my favorite Iron Maiden albums. I'll tell you what they are. The first one is the Power Slave album, and that's the pyramids, the ancient Egypt theme with the pharaohs. I certainly gravitate to that one, not only because of the album cover, but it was one of those first major, huge metal concerts that I went to. So that imagery is really ingrained and nostalgic to me. In addition to hearing these albums, when you and I grew up, the way you listened to them was very different, I think, than how people listen today. It was me and my friends. I'm sure you were very similar. It was you and your friends sitting around listening to it, and the album cover was tangible. So you would look at the album cover and you would sit, and that would be more of the focus of what you're doing, and less of something that just happened to be playing in the background. You were there to listen to the album. Therefore, you were holding the cover and you were looking at it.
That is a great point for a number of reasons, just historically a point in time. And you're exactly right. You got the album and you were engaged. You pulled out the liner notes, you were reading about it. It was, they had a lot of real estate to cover with the cover itself and the artwork and just the notes, or the story behind some of the songs. And it was an engaged, collaborative thing with your buddies back in the day. Not like the a la carte thing now. You listen to an entire album. You got all the B-sides and the stuff that, maybe it was some filler on you were disappointed with, but sometimes there's a gem at the end of the second side that this is one of my favorite songs. So that experience, I think, is kind of gone a little bit in today's environment. Yeah.
Any other Iron Maiden albums?
Oh, I kind of lump them all in together because they're all, I hate to say it, it's kind of cartoonish now, but it's also very wonderful and awesome at the same time. I love that stuff.
I loved the Killers album cover. That was a yellowish Eddie with the hatchet and some buildings in the background. And one a little bit later was Somewhere in Time. That was the one where he was almost this hybrid type character, where he had some sort of robotic type body.
Eddie didn't want to be typecast, so he would change his image like Madonna periodically.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, that was a great one. So that sort of rounds out my Iron Maiden album favorites.
But in kind of that same category of just that stark impression, I remember I really enjoyed the Scorpions. I think I mentioned before that was the first concert I went to in 1984. And the Blackout album, the guy's got like the forks in his eyes, like bent around his head. And I remember like, how do they get away with something so... But, I was a kid, a teenager, and it was teenage boy awesomeness.
Yeah. The other one back then was the Judas Priest British Steel album with the big razor blade on the front.
Yeah, yep.
That was always a favorite.
I think when I first saw that, I didn't really know it was a razor blade. I just thought it was a cool piece of metal because I was 14 or whatever.
Another one you've mentioned, I'm surprised you didn't bring it up, Rush, Permanent Waves. I think that was amongst some of your favorites.
Well, this is a great segue, Mike, because my next category, moving from just the stark imagery of that, came a new fascination with album art, and it started with moving pictures by Rush because there's a great pun there, and now we're swerving into something clever where you see the album, the album's called Moving Pictures, but the album is guys carrying artwork to a museum. They're actually moving the pictures, which I thought was very interesting, which then led to, something like Exit Stage Left, where all the previous album covers are sort of hidden and all put together. There's like Easter eggs all around that thing as you try to identify which piece of artwork is related to which album. I thought that was brilliant. So this kind of falls into the clever category. And then, this is not exactly the same category, but Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti, where they have the picture of the New York City building, and you would slide the inside out, and the windows were cut out, so it would change. You could see like letters appearing. It was actually an interactive. It was like one of the first. I don't know if it was the first, but it was an interactive album cover, which I thought again was clever. People were trying to find really cool things, whether it was a pun or artwork or Easter eggs or kind of a gimmick with the liner notes sliding in and out of the sleeve.
Yeah, that's on my list too, amongst all the Led Zeppelin albums. And there's probably some that have made best album cover lists. Physical Graffiti made my list. I loved that album cover for all those reasons.
Yes. I think there's a whole story behind it too, because I went to go check what it spelled when you. So there's a whole story behind, and just very, very interesting if you want to look it up. But I'm sad to say I don't know who came up with the idea, the artist with that.
You've discussed the story and the intrigue of the Permanent Waves album. Dewey defeats Truman headlines on the 1948 Chicago Daily Tribune.
Yeah, Permanent Waves comes in as one of my favorite albums of all time, with just an interesting album cover to go along with it. Same thing. There's little Easter eggs, there's historical references in there. A woman's skirt blowing up. Who doesn't like that? And there's just a whole bunch of really cool things going on in that album. Not to mention, it's among my favorite listens.
I don't want to jump outside the rock category, so let me know if you have any others that fall into there. I'd mentioned Judas Priest. I loved the Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti. I don't know if this would fall into that category, but there was a couple King Crimson albums that were fantastic. The one was In the Court of the King Crimson.
Yeah, that's a crazy piece of artwork. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, along the lines of keeping it simple, which I think has become iconic, is Pink Floyd, who did some great album art. Which is it? Wish You Were Here. Which the one with the guys on fire? But they invested a ton of money in. I'm embarrassed, I forgot which album that was. But they've invested a ton of money in, or not a ton of money, a ton of time into developing really, really cool artwork for that too. But their most iconic piece is probably Dark Side of the Moon, which is literally just a prism. But I think your average person walking down the street sees that in a t-shirt shop and knows what that is. It's so simple, but it's become a legendary part of pop culture.
I saw a fantastic meme the other day. I'll have to forward it to you. I believe that album recently celebrated a 50-year anniversary, and the meme was a picture of Darth Vader holding the album cover, which I thought was fantastic.
Brilliant.
Dark Side. Any other rock albums?
No, that's kind of it as I go through my categories here. What else you got?
I love many of the Mastodon album covers. A couple that I love are Crack the Sky and Once More, Round the Sun were fantastic album covers. Most all of them, like a band like Iron Maiden and some of these other groups, just consistently have absolutely intriguing, amazingly designed album covers.
Oh, I got one more in the rock category, I guess.
A late entry? This is a late entry?
It's a late entry. The London Calling by The Clash, just a great album, and there's just that blurry, grainy, black and white photo of the bass player smashing his bass. Just a moment in time. Again, so simple, just a snapshot, really, but just an iconic image that kind of captures the punkiness of the time. Strangely, I always wondered where they had the letters for London Calling. It looks strangely familiar. That's from an Elvis album. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
So the pink and green letters, London Calling.
I know,
I
and I
can't
know
remember
the Elvis album. I don't know. I know which album you're talking about. It's Elvis on the cover, playing his guitar in black and white, and it has
the same font, the same colors.
font.
So the Clash, obviously, and I did not realize it till yesterday, lifted that idea, which is a juxtaposition of flavors in that, and still kind of interesting and brilliant in its own little way.
I never made the connection. Outside the rock category, I don't know how much of a hip hop fan you are, but there's some amazing artwork that's happening on a lot of the hip hop albums. And there's a Japanese contemporary artist, and he does some amazing artwork, which has been used on a Kid Cudi album, and Kanye West, the Graduation album, features his art. There's another great album, and my daughter kind of got me hooked on Tyler the Creator. It's called Flower Boy, and I think that's an artist from Michigan, Eric White, who does that. So I'm happy to see that people are still putting as much effort and appreciating album design and artwork, still to this day, even despite, distribution being slightly different and more digital.
Yeah. I mean, you're limited to the size of people's phones probably most of the time.
So outside the rock category, I have some others too. One that I loved, and I don't know if you were how deep you were into the punk phase as a youth, but the Dead Milkman, Big Lizard in My Backyard, I always loved because it was a goofy drawn giant green lizard with a super bright yellow background on the album cover, and it always made me laugh. And
I think I have to look that one up.
That's a good
because
one.
you made me laugh for the title.
I'm saving my two favorites to the very end, which you can probably guess already, but I'm saving them to the end.
Didn't you have a great story about your mother intercepting a booklet or something?
I did. It was Christmas, and I got a Wings album. I think it was called Red Rose Speedway. And I don't know if I was a huge Wings fan. I know we talk about the Beatles and Paul McCartney and Wings, and I don't know how much of a Wings fan I was, but for whatever reason, I got Wings Red Rose Speedway for Christmas. And inside the album, I think it was a double album, and inside the album, there was a giant catalog, multiple pages, probably 6 or 7 pages, the size of the album, and it read like a booklet, and it was filled with pictures and information to the likes which to this day I have no idea what's in that album, because apparently there was something my mother felt was highly inappropriate for me to see. So before the wrapping paper hit the floor on Christmas morning, my mother snatched the album out of my hand, immediately brought it into the kitchen before the rest of the presents were open, and went to work with a bottle of Elmer's glue. And she proceeded to glue all the pages together, and until it was dry, I never got the album back. And to this day, my curiosity remains the same as to what was in the album cover of Wings Red Rose Speedway.
She bricked it. She rendered it impossible to read.
Yeah.
That's a major mom move right there. That's awesome.
Yeah. And you know how the glue dries, right? It's all wavy and hard. So the album was never the same. And I don't know if I listened to it anyway, but the whole inside was all like crusty and hard and wavy dried Elmer's glue. And I guess I never even attempted to try to peel the pages because they would likely rip. But I have no idea what was inside there. It could have revealed who shot Kennedy for all I know.
Where's Jimmy Hoffa buried?
I don't know exactly.
We'll never know. We will never know.
That's the biggest mystery album in my life.
So moving on, what do you got else on the list?
The other one was, this is one of the last ones on my list, XTC Go To, which was also designed by Hypnosis. And that was just a black album cover with a dense text copy that sort of taunts and messes with the album buyer's head that it's just there to sort of get you to buy the album.
Oh, that's right. We didn't bring up a parental advisory that made its way onto these covers that made the album even way more interesting. I must buy this.
That's right. It lured your curiosity even more.
Hey, I got a quick band story for you. This is related, though. When I was in a band in New Hampshire, the other guitar player, we got asked to play at an elementary school just to do a lighthearted little jam for a little school event. It was an elementary school, and I'll never forget this kid coming up to the band and just saying, "Can you guys?" He's like 8 or 9 years old. Can you guys play something inappropriate? And we're like, well, what do you mean? He goes, I don't care. Just make it bad. That was it. But it's right in line with, young people looking to rattle things up a little bit, shake it up,
I'm dying to know. What did you play? Did you go with like AC/DC, Big Balls?
I think to keep it, I think we played a Green Day song, so it was a little heavier, a little edgy, but not no one turned heads or we weren't actually spoken to. So I think we did not plan on playing Green Day and pulled out something, if I recall correctly. That goes way back.
So I guess I should get to my two favorite number one album covers. And I discussed this with you before, was the 1975 Kiss Alive album cover. And I remember, as I said, getting it and not only listening to it and looking at the album cover, but it had that unique ink smell on the cardboard that has made a lasting impression to me because of its strong, toxic odor in opening
Definitely
it.
toxic. Yes.
Definitely toxic back then. There was no lead regulations. God knows what I was inhaling. I still have the album to this day, and it still smells slightly ink toxic, but I will keep that in my collection forever.
Yes.
But the number one album for me, I'm going to just tell you, was Kiss Dressed to Kill.
Oh, nice.
And if you remember, it's that photograph taken in New York City. It's perfectly shot in black and white, and it has the band. And what is so cool to me is they have suits on, and the suits are flawlessly tailored, and they have full makeup. It's one of the most eerie and scary for some reason. I guess it's the makeup with them in the suits. It wasn't, I wouldn't use the word terrifying, but it had an alarming element to it. And being shot in black and white, it was almost fearful on some level, and it remains my favorite album cover.
That is brilliant. Yeah. These creatures are moving among us in the city. Yeah. And they're well dressed and they may be hiding around any corner. No, I get that. Yeah, that's brilliant. Yep.
Yeah, there was a fear that was associated with that album.
No, that's a stellar pick. Yeah, totally agree.
So for me, that's my number one. If you had to pick amongst some of your albums, is there one that would stand out or would qualify for number one?
Mike, it's like your children. You can't pick. It's hard to do that. So I'm not going to fall for that. But I do think we need to.
But
tip
there
the
is
hat.
like your children. There is always one you do like a little bit more, right? No.
We love everything for different reasons, and that's what makes the world great. But I do think we need to tip the hat to Abbey Road because it's just lasting. For decades, thousands of people go recreate that just because. So its iconic status of participation, I think, is noteworthy.
What would you say if many more people started creating Nirvana Nevermind? We think we can get that to be the number one album cover?
No, I think there'd be a lot of lawsuits connected to that one. The world has changed in just a few decades. So I do have a cool dad tip if you want to launch it now, or do you have more you want to go over?
I think tip away, my friend.
So I think it comes to the cool dad tip when it comes to creating an album. Don't skimp out on the artwork. It's important.
I think that's a good plug for Richie Rich Photograph Design.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, catch up soon. Thanks.